Hello, bonjour, bienvenidos. Welcome back to my learning block and thank you for joining me. All right, today we're going to have a focus on place values. Yes, place values. They're so fun and enjoyable to learn, and in reality, if your child cannot understand place values, math is going to be a very problematic subject. It's going to be very difficult. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to kick it out there. Let you know, math is going to be very difficult, and that is because place values to math is like understanding phonemic awareness, or phonemes, to reading. If your child doesn't have a concept of what the words mean, they can't really understand reading, or they don't have a concept of how to use words, then reading is difficult. Same thing here. If they don't have a concept of numbers and what those numbers mean and where they're located and how they're said, math is going to be hard as well. So it brings us back to place values. And place values are the position of a digit in a series of numbers. Position of a digit in a series of numbers. Yes, that's what it is. See, I have it right down on the paper or the presentation in front of you. So what does it mean to have a place value or the digits? Well, let's say for instance you had the number 34, right? 34, great number. All right, when you look at these numbers, I know you see the 3 and I know you see the 4, but it's not a 3 and it's not a 4. It's 30, so it's almost like 31s and 4 ones, and that's the concept that place values will teach. It will teach us give us the understanding of the value of those numbers. So place values that we're going to focus on today are the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. Sooner or later, your child will understand the pattern that these simply continue over and over and over and over, and they keep going. All right, you have something tens, hundreds, something tens, hundreds, something tens, hundreds, but essentially it comes out to like a ones, like you have thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions, that. All right, so place values, but in the sense of our hundreds, tens, and ones, we're going to associate them with what are called flats, rods, and units. Now, flats, they are 100 units. Rods are 10 units, and units are represented as 1. So if I would show you here, flats, when I think of flats, I think of 100. And I'll show you a little more about that in a second. When I think of rods, I think of tens. And when I think of units, I think of ones. All right, flats. A flat, when we're talking, looks just like this. It's like a flat surface or a flat object, and what that object is 100 units connected. In the classroom, we're using manipulatives such as our base 10 blocks. I think that's what they're called. You know, the blocks. No, I know that's what they're called. I'm joking. I'm completely joking. All right, so we use our blocks, and a flat surface, as you'll see in this instance, this is exactly looks like it's just a 2-dimensional shape, even though it looks 3D, but it's still right there in front of you. All right, so it's a flat, and it has 100 single units on it. And if, trust me, your child has already counted every unit to make sure that we didn't miss anything. All right, so there are 100 units. And a rod, as you see here, there are 10. It's the same thing. And the reason why you call it a rod is because it kind of looks like a rod. All right, and what it represents is 10. R10 is 10. It represents 10 units because, as you see, there are 10 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. All right, and then lastly, you have your single unit. And voila, it's just a cube. I know. And they're actually using centimeters, so it's pretty cool. But anyway, so flats, rods, and units. Now, what these all really mean is they show your child how to physically see numbers or the values of numbers. So now if they see the number, and I'm going to go back here to my place values. If they see the number, let's say 132, they now know that they'll see 1 flat, 3 rods, and 2 units. And when you're doing a unit, all you got to do is just either put a circle here like that, or you can just put a dot. And so what they'll see is they'll understand that this is not 1, this is 100, because it's 1 flat. This is not 3, it's 3 rods, or it's 30, it's 3 tens, and this is not this, well, it is 2 units, right? All right, so working with place values. And again, this is a fun concept. Like, for instance, when we see these place values right here, and your child will get to a point where they really can understand this. And when you're teaching it, you want to teach it in a manner in which they're using at school. And what they're using are flats, rods, and units. Or maybe they're just using rods and units, or maybe they're just using units. And it's all fun, but it still shows the value of places. A lot of times what we have, I know in my classroom, what I have are the units that stick together. And so when they stick 10 together, they notice, hey, this is the same size as a rod. It looks like a rod. And I say, yes. And so I allow them to take 10 and stick them together with 10 and stick them together with 10 and stick them together with 10 all the way till I get 10 sticking together. And they say, hey, this is a flat. And I say, perfect, because that's 100. 10 tens equals 100. We use them everywhere. I'm telling you. Everywhere it works. All right, so in this situation, when your child's looking at it, you ask them, well, count your number of units. How many units do you have? And we're gonna start working from right to left, because we're gonna get into the using algorithms and different things like that. So we're gonna start here with our ones. All right, so when you're working with your child, make sure you're starting with the ones, not necessarily the hundreds, because we can have to regroup at certain times. Now here, certain times may come up. So have your child say, well, how many units do you see? And again, I've switched it to imply basically that the square represents a flat, a straight line or a line segment represents a rod, and the circles, as I said earlier, they represent the units. So your child is now going from the concrete, actually seeing each, to more of an abstract picture here. And I moved pretty fast, but if you need to, please, by all means, go back to the actual flat pictures, and I have a bunch of them. Go check them out in the resources. So the ones, I have 1, 2, 3 ones. So a 3 will go in the ones place, right? Or 3 units, so the 3 goes in the ones. Right here for my rods, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rods, which represent 50. There's 50 of them. And then lastly, I have 1, 2 flats, and that makes 200. Therefore, if I was looking at this number, I can understand that it is 253. Now, that's just a simple introductory into how we use those base 10 blocks. Yes, they're called base 10. I'm just making sure, you know, sometimes you say some weird things. All right, so this is an introductory of how to use those base 10 blocks, especially when with regards of place values, giving your child the understanding of place values. And you can switch it up, trust me, you can switch it up a lot. You can have your child, they have the number and they have to use the base blocks to create the number. They have the base blocks and they have to create the number. Either way, it works, and it really gives your child a good foundation of understanding numbers and the values of each. Thank you again for joining me on my learning block. I look forward to seeing you next time, and keep learning.